She knows he doesn't want her, not fully, not completely, not in the way she craves to be wanted, and yet she keeps coming back in thought, in feeling, in fantasy. She checks the messages he didn't send, replays the conversations where his words said one thing but her heart clung to something else. She remembers how he looked at her once, how he smiled, how his silence lingered, and she calls it a sign. Even if every other sign pointed to no, he's not hers, he never really was, but there's something in her that wants him, and not just wants, longs, yearns, waits, and she doesn't fully understand why. Carl Jung believed that we are drawn to what is familiar, not always what is good for us. That the unconscious pulls us toward patterns, not promises. So when she wants the man who doesn't want her, it's not because he's right. It's because something in him activates, something in her, a wound, a memory, a story she doesn't even know she's repeating. She feels chemistry, but it's not love. She feels butterflies, but they come with anxiety. She feels seen, but only when he chooses to look, and the moments when he doesn't, they tear at her self-worth like a quiet storm. She knows better. She tells herself she deserves more, that she shouldn't settle, that she needs to move on, but then he says something soft, something vague, something half-true. Asterisk, she may say she's done. She may even block him, delete the thread, repeat affirmations that she's moved on, but somewhere deep inside, in the silence between distractions, she still wonders if he'll come back, if he'll change, if he'll finally wake up and see her the way she always hoped to be seen. And that's not foolish, it's not desperation, it's conditioning. A loop her heart learned to survive in, because when love was unpredictable, it made her feel alive. When love was inconsistent, it made her try harder. When love was painful, it made her believe she had to work for it. So now she's caught between her knowing and her longing, between what she deserves and what feels familiar, and until she brings that to light, until she names the part of her that still equates love with effort, she'll keep reaching for the man who doesn't reach back, not because she doesn't know her worth, but because that worth still lives beneath layers of silence, layers of survival, layers of stories that told her love must be earned through suffering. And now, for the first time, she's beginning to question all of it, and suddenly she's back, believing again that maybe, just maybe, he'll choose her this time. But what she's really chasing is not him, it's the feeling of being chosen, finally, completely, without having to beg for it. She wants to feel like enough, like she is the one someone stays for, not the one someone reaches for when no one else is around. And so she waits, not just for him, but for the version of herself she hopes to become when he finally loves her. But he won't, because he can't, because the story she's caught in was never about him. It was about the way she learned to love. In spaces where love had to be earned, in homes where silence was confused with safety, in childhoods where her needs felt like a burden. So now, when she meets a man who sees her clearly, who chooses her openly, who stays, she doesn't feel desire. She feels discomfort, because safety is foreign, affection without anxiety feels boring, and love without longing doesn't feel like love at all. That's how deep the pattern goes. Carl Jung taught that the shadow holds everything we reject in ourselves, and for many women, being fully loved lives in that shadow, because somewhere along the way she learned that pain was part of love, that intensity meant connection, that waiting made it worth more. So now she wants the one who runs, the one who forgets to text back, the one who only shows up in pieces, because her nervous system was wired to find chaos familiar. But what she calls love is often the echo of what hurt her first. And the men who bring peace, who show up with steady hands, with clear eyes, with consistency, they don't create butterflies, they create quiet. And she doesn't know how to sit in that quiet yet, because in the absence of pain she starts to feel the ache of her own loneliness, and that loneliness is easier to ignore when someone keeps her chasing. So no, she doesn't want the man who wants her, because wanting her means seeing her, all of her, even the parts she hides in. That kind of love feels terrifying, because it would ask her to stop performing, to stop proving, to stop trying so hard to be enough, would ask her to receive, to soften, to stay, to let someone choose her without having to earn it. And that, more than rejection, is the scariest thing of all. Before we go deeper, here's something that may help you step out of this cycle for good. If you've ever loved someone who couldn't choose you, or chased connection that never arrived, the Jung Method is a powerful way to understand your emotional patterns and reclaim your worth. The link is pinned in the first comment. Now let's return to the question that haunts her. Why do I want the one who doesn't want Mitsa? Question that lives not in her logic, but in her nervous system, in the earliest imprints of what she believed love was supposed to feel like. Maybe She grew up in a home where love meant unpredictability, where connection had to be earned through performance, where attention came and went, where being noticed meant being useful, and where affection was a reward, not a right. So when a man is fully present, when he sees her without conditions, when he offers steady love, it doesn't feel like love. It feels unfamiliar, flat, empty, because her body was wired to feel alive in emotional pursuit, to feel worthy through waiting, to feel close through effort. And a man who just gives, without requiring her to prove anything, leaves her feeling confused. She doesn't trust the peace. She questions the simplicity. She feels uneasy without the drama she's used to navigate. Jung believed that when we haven't made the unconscious conscious, it directs our life, and we call it fate. So she keeps saying, "It just happens. I can't help who I'm attracted to. It's a soul connection. It's chemistry." But what if that chemistry is actually a wound calling her back into the same story? The man who doesn't want her becomes a mirror, reflecting the part of her that still doesn't feel worthy of being fully chosen. And so she pours her energy into him, trying to convince him to see her, to want her, to finally make her feel enough. But his rejection, his absence, his inconsistency only fuel the fantasy. Because if she can win him, if she can change his mind, if she can become the exception, then maybe she'll finally believe she matters. But love that has to be earned through suffering will never be safe, and a man who keeps her guessing is not awakening her soul. He is activating her trauma. She says she's in love, but what she's in is a loop, a pattern, a cycle that began long before he ever appeared. And as long as she chases him, she avoids the deeper truth that the part of her still reaching is the part that never got to rest. She longs for someone who won't choose her because she hasn't yet learned how to choose herself. And when someone does choose her completely, without confusion, without delay, she doesn't believe it. She feels uncomfortable, suspicious. She backs away, because the part of her that equates love with pain still doesn't know how to receive love that doesn't hurt. But healing begins not by forcing herself to love the one who wants her, but by gently exploring why she never let herself feel safe in that love before. It means sitting with the discomfort, letting go of the rush, not chasing, not proving, not twisting herself into something else to be decided. Means staying still, letting herself be held, letting the man who is steady remain steady without sabotaging it. It means saying no to breadcrumbs, to half words, to half choices, to half love. Beckers, she has tasted silence in the arms of someone who used her energy to feel alive, and she has mistaken that intensity for intimacy. But now she's beginning to see it was never him she needed. It was the part of herself that she abandoned when she wasn't being chosen. And now she chooses her, not because she's given up on love, but because she's ready for real love, the kind that doesn't ask her to perform, to shrink, to wait, the kind that feels calm, simple, uncomplicated, soft. At first, that softness might feel strange, even boring, because her heart is used to chasing. But as she learns to slow down, to breathe, to stay, she starts to realize that real love was never missing. She just didn't recognize it. She was too busy proving her worth to feel it. Now she gives herself permission to receive it, not from someone who ignores her, but from someone who sees her hand. If that man feels too quiet at first, if he doesn't stir the chaos she's used to, she pause, she breathes. She remembered that safety is not a sign of lack, it's a sign she's healing. The butterflies she used to feel came from uncertainty, from fear, from trying to be enough for someone who was never really there. But now she wants something different. The chase, not the confusion, not the silence between touches. She wants presence, truth, consistency, and softness. She wants to be loved in full, not just noticed in pieces. And the man who doesn't want her no longer holds power over her, because she sees clearly now that his inability to choose her was never about her value. It was about his own disconnection, and her desire to chase him was never about love. It was about the part of her that still wanted to feel worthy enough to be chosen. But she doesn't have to be chosen anymore. She already is by herself, and from that place everything changes. Asterisk. She no longer needs to be wanted by the one who won't stay, because now she understands something even more important. She was never really chasing him. She was chasing herself, the version of her that would finally feel loved, seen, and often for a long time. She believed that version of herself would be born the moment he finally chose her, when he stopped ignoring her, when he said the words she's been waiting to hear. But now she knows that even if he did, even if he came back, even if he said everything she dreamed of, it still wouldn't be enough. Not because he isn't capable, but because no one outside of her can complete the part of her that never felt whole. She begins to see that her healing doesn't come from being chosen by him. It comes from no longer needing to be. She stops checking her phone, stops reading into his silence, stops wondering what she did wrong because she didn't do anything wrong. She just finally realized that her love doesn't belong in places that can't hold it, and in that quiet the space she used to fill with doubt, with questions, with overthinking begins to soften. She feels peace again. Not the kind that feels like emptiness, but the kind that feels like truth. She remembers who she was before she started shrinking, before she started proving, before she started making herself small, just to be noticed, and in that remembering she returns to herself, to her own center, to her own light, and from that place she no longer longs for him, she no longer wishes he'd change, because the version of her that waited, that longed, that begged for breadcrumbs, she's no longer leading her life now. It's the version of her who knows, who sees clearly, who feels deeply but doesn't lose herself in the feeling. It's the woman who can hold space for her desire without letting it decide her worth. It's the woman who can say, yes, I wanted him, but I want me more, and I choose me now, not out of pride, not out of fear, but out of truth, because choosing herself doesn't mean closing her heart. It means opening it to love that feels safe, love that arrives fully, love that doesn't require pain to prove it's real. She knows now that if she keeps chasing what doesn't choose her, she'll always be running from herself. So she stops running, she stands still and lets her truth catch up with her. And when it does, she smiles, because this time she didn't have to be anyone else to feel worthy. She just had to come home, and home isn't him. It never was. It's her. It was always her asterisk. And that's the quiet miracle no one sees, not the dramatic goodbye, not the tears, not the final text left on read, but the soft, invisible shift, the moment she chooses not to reach out, the moment she doesn't check if he watched her story, the moment she walks past a memory and doesn't flinch, because the truth is healing doesn't always look loud. It often looks like nothing at all, but inside her entire patterns are dissolving, old wounds are closing, and the voice that once said, "You're not enough," is being replaced by one that says, "Come back, I'm here." She's not healed because she forgot him. She's healed because she remembered herself, and now when love arrives again, she'll know the difference between a man who wants her energy and one who can hold her soul, between a man who feeds off her light and one who adds to it. She'll recognize peace, not as boredom, but as safety, and this time she won't mistake chaos for passion, because now she understands real love isn't something she has to lose herself to feel. It's something that meets her where she already is and says, "You were always worthy, even before I came."